Welcome to the WriterDojo with your host, Steve Diamond.
Yellow.
And Larry Correia.
Whoever said the pen is mightier than the sword obviously never encountered automatic weapons.
Today's episode, independent publishing and running a small press.
All right, everybody. Welcome back to the WriterDojo. Glad to have you all back with us today. In our never-ending series of interviews with people that we've kidnapped at LibertyCon, we got a fun special guest for you today. A friend of ours, a guy we've written for, all that kind of jazz.
One of the original alpha readers for Monster Hunter International.
Yeah.
I actually still have the first document you sent out.
Proto-version Word document.
You should just start printing it out and selling it on the street.
Hell no!
All right, if maybe, I don't know, maybe you know the voice, maybe you don't. We could play a dating game with it, I guess. But here we go. We've got Lawdog. We've got our man Lawdog in the house. So,
hello. Hey
man, thanks so much for joining us today. We appreciate it. We know schedules are kind of wonky during LibertyCon. Basically what's going on is we either say, okay, show up really early or really late. Because in the middle, we've got no time.
I thought the straitjacket was a nice touch.
Good. I've stitched them all by hand myself.
Well, we tried to black bag Mike Massa, and that just did not work.
No, I've got a black eye.
That was like trying to wrestle a rhinoceros. So
angry rhinoceros.
All right, so with this episode, as we always do when we have guests on, the first goal is to let you listeners kind of get a feel for who our guest is. So, Ian, if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself to everybody, talk about who you are, where you came from, kind of what got you into writing, and ultimately, we want to get into what led you to being crazy and becoming a publisher.
Right. My name's Ian McMurtry. A lot of folks know me as Lawdog. I think it's fairly common knowledge I was born overseas, born in Malta. My father was an oil engineer, and my mother was an art teacher, both Americans. And at the time that I was hatched, my father was in Libya, and it wasn't quite as safe for the ladies as one might hope. So he left mom in Malta while he was working oil down in Libya, and mom suddenly came up pregnant, as happens for newlyweds. And I got dumped on an unsuspecting world in the late 60s. Dad followed the oil patch through Africa. So we went to, if there was oil in Africa, we wound up there sooner or later. And the thing about African culture, particularly in the 60s and 70s, it's a very verbal culture. Storytelling is a very strong part of African culture. So I grew up in Middle Eastern culture, grew up around a lot of storytellers, and had a lot of storytellers to learn from. And it just came very naturally from telling stories to writing them down. And
he's pointing at me.
Big guy over there, we were on a firearms bulletin board, the firing line.
Yes, the infamous firing line at this point, right?
And it was getting too serious one day. It was getting too serious. So I just threw up this story about an armadillo that I had an encounter with. And the reaction was off the charts. It was, oh my God. So I started putting up these stories of just what I'd done in law enforcement. And honest to God, most of them are true. People don't believe that. Most of them are true. Small town law enforcement.
Yeah.
So I started putting them up. And friends, Larry among them, said, hey, you should start a blog. So about 2008, I said, what the hell, pull the trigger on a blog. And I collect all my stories, wrote more. I say hone my craft, but I was dinking around. I was relieving stress. It was easy to relieve stress after a 12-hour shift to come home and write about funny things, the humorous aspects. And at LibertyCon, actually, the first LibertyCon I came to, Larry and Bridget suckered me into coming out. I blame a lot on Larry.
Yeah, I do too. It's fun.
There's a recurring motif in the careers of a lot of people I know.
Oh my gosh! Did you know I never once swore before I met Larry? Never once. Never once.
Yeah.
That's a lie.
Yes. So I don't handle people. I don't handle people well. And cons, frankly, at the time, back in the 2000s, scared the crap out of me. But Larry and Bridget said, you've got to come out to LibertyCon. Got to come to LibertyCon. You're going to like it. I came out to LibertyCon and met Larry and Bridget for the first time in the paint. I'd known both of them for ages, but met him for the first time in the paint. And on the way home, I wound up with a contract for collections of my stories. And it's like, I'm now a published author. First one, Larry book bombed. And yes, #1 in the broad humor category on Amazon for about 3.2 seconds.
I do miss book bombs, though. Those were wonderful.
Man, those
We
were
beat
wonderful.
out Al Franken. That was my only thing. I was watching the numbers, and it was Milo Yiannopoulos and Al Franken. And when I got past Al Franken, it's like, yes, I could die happy. Got to number 82 or 84 in all of Amazon.
Yep.
It was great. So, tootling along, I'm now an author, writing books, having some issues with that publisher. And I went kind of cold for a while. I was writing short stories for folks. And so Jonna Hayden, old congoer, very much a pot stirrer, showed up in Wichita County. Yes, I know she's behind me. Showed up in Wichita County, and she dared me to do something. I had written, somebody had asked me what would have happened if the Nazis had been smart and invaded Malta instead of Crete during World War II. Well, I'm a very proud Maltese. I'm dual nationality, very proud Maltese citizen. And I started, you have no idea how fortified Malta is. You have no idea about that. I started this long Facebook thread about what would have happened and why it would have happened this way. And as part of it, these folks, you need to do short stories. You need to have an anthology about this. And nobody's going to write stories for an anthology of mine. Now, nobody knows me. I've had 2 books, 2 granted well-selling books, and a whole bunch of short stories, but nobody's going to read an anthology. You'll want to put out and give me a story for an anthology. Took Jonna to lunch, and she dared me. She said, get on Facebook right now and see how many people will sign up. Say, if I do an anthology, how many people will send me a story? And don't look at your phone till the end of the meal and tell me what you got. And I was, okay, whatever. I was figuring, I told her, okay, we get about 9 or 10 responses, and of those 9 or 10, 2 or 3 will actually send in stories. And she said, uh-huh. Because if you know Jonna, you can see the big blue eyes when she goes, uh-huh. So we had some very nice chicken fried steaks, and then as I told her I'd do, I opened up my Facebook, and there were 26 people wanting to write stories for a Malta anthology.
She's correcting you. She's saying 36. We've got a couple backseat drivers in the house today too.
There were
Just
a large number of people that, and I was figuring a third to a half would actually send in stories, and of those stories, half of those would be actually something you'd want to put, no. My one anthology for Malta turned into 4. Along come the second one, and Courtney is C.V. Walter. Courtney is banging around, and I'm talking to Courtney and Jonna, and Courtney says, you have enough for a publishing house. You know that, right? No, I don't. No, I don't. I do not have enough for a publishing house. So Courtney dares me. She says, say you're going to do 2 more anthologies and see how many responses you get. I was dumb enough, I took the dare.
Oh dear.
I believe at this time, currently, we started in January. This is now June. We have Raconteur Press, which I went ahead and formed with Courtney as my chief editor, because if I was going to have the pain, she was going to share it.
Yes.
And then Jonna...
Smart.
Yes.
Yes.
Jonna, because I tell people that the inside of my head is a bunch of squirrels. They're highly caffeinated and at a rave. And as long as everybody's dancing to the same beat of music, I can form coherent lines of thought. But sooner or later, one of the squirrels will lose his glow stick, and it devolves into utter chaos with squirrels crying in the corner. And so Jonna, who has a lot of practice at wrangling various cats, became our production manager to keep us online and make sure that we are, in fact, wearing pants.
Oh, good. I hear that's important. I'm not sure I believe it, but I hear it's important.
Oh, and then after Jonna came on, Cedar Sanderson had shown up, and she was doing these little coloring books with me, adult coloring books. These are very adult coloring books, where she takes some of my stories and does, stuff people can draw. And I was looking at the stuff and I was thinking, we really need an in-house graphics person. And there's one in town. Cedar, in-house graphics person. And she went, what? You're drafted. That's what we do here. One of our first conventions was FinCon, where we actually showed up as Raconteur Press. You got me, you've got Courtney and Cedar and Jonna. And it was a convention. There were a lot of people breathing my air.
Yeah.
And I was at a high hover, as Jim Curtis says. And the first day I was there, I'm zipping around, as Jonna says, walking very stabbity. And Cedar says, have you had something to eat? I said, no. She says, get something to eat. I said, okay, and lost my glow stick. And Courtney says, about an hour later, have you had something to eat? I said, no. She says, get something to eat. I said, that's a good idea, and lost my glow stick. And then Jonna said, have you had something to eat? And I said, oh. And this time she wouldn't let me lose my glow stick. So I called them the three moms of the apocalypse. Because I was getting mothered the entire time, which actually helped things a lot because I didn't starve to death.
That's good.
This is good.
In our WriterDojo 2.0 episode, it was determined that in order for my wife to kill me, all she had to do was stop feeding me. So,
and mine would just feed me more.
Yes. This explains much as you look at the two of us, right?
It really does.
So that is the short and dirty story of how Raconteur Press started. And honestly, my business card, which I didn't realize I was getting, says stands out front and looks pretty.
Which is a great business card.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. And you just actually had a brand new one. Is it out now? The Pinup Noir.
Yes, Pinup Noir is out.
Came out here.
We were actually Steve Diamond is actually one of the anchor stories in there.
Yep, that's me.
And also,
and this other guy,
Jack
Mr.
Ryder.
Producer Jack.
Yes, is
also
it?
has a story in it.
He actually
Here's the first story, right?
Jack sent one of the first stories to arrive after we put out the call for Pinup Noir.
yeah, I proofread that one. He sent that to me to alpha read, and it was really good.
Yes,
and he was really nervous too because he's been reading my stuff for the last 17 years.
He sent it in, and I got it, and I read it. It's like, oh my god!
Yeah, it's really good story.
And then I because I'm new at this, I did not cuddle my authors and tell them this is good. It's just, oh my god, Courtney, you got to read this, and then we forgot about Jack. And I get this little messenger message a little while later. Did you like the story? Oh God, yes, we love it. Yes, it's in the book. It's in the book.
Yeah, because I gave honest feedback, like as if it had been written by anybody else. I mean, pretending it wasn't the producer Jack's name on it, and it was really good.
Yes,
so for you guys listening at home right now, if you want to see what producer Jack and Steve's in there, but you guys have read Steve.
Well, yeah.
We
They
want to see
know
what
what I'm
producer
all
Jack can
about.
write. It's pinup noir, and
Pinup Noir was actually one of the ones that Courtney, the challenge that started Raconteur Press. That was one of the ones when she challenged, put out a call for 3 anthologies to see what you get. And Pinup Noir was actually one of them. And we got it off of a Greg Hildebrandt pinup.
Yeah, that picture's great.
Yes.
that is a really good
It's
cover.
great.
I really wanted it, and we're looking at it. I'm learning a lot of things as a publisher. One, that Amazon's a bunch of prudes.
Yeah.
And would not, Amazon was like, panties.
Really?
Yeah, Amazon panties. You cannot.
Oh, I had
Too
no
sexy.
idea.
Yeah.
I wondered because when. Okay, so what happened was Courtney shanghaied me at LTUE.
You too.
I know. I was minding my own business. I had my coffee clutch last second that no one advertised at that convention because they're mean. And I'm just sitting there having a great conversation, and she comes over and she like strong arms me.
Mm-hmm.
She threatens me. She threatened to beat me up. I'm pretty sure she held a gun to me, and she was like, "Hey, how come you haven't written for us?" And at that point, what am I supposed to do? I mean, I have to say yes. And so I said, "Oh, well, that's great. Well, what are we talking about?" She's like, "Well, how about noir?" And I'm like, "Well, man, I really like noir. I really, really like noir."
Your story is fantastic.
Well, and I'm like, "Whoa, when's it due?" In 2 weeks. Like, oh, okay. Well, how many words? 8,000. Like, okay. I mean, I can make that work. I'm unemployed. What else am I going to do today?
You guys notice that's a recurring theme on this show of short story deadlines. We've heard this story so many times from so many different people in so many situations. When's it due? 5 days from now. It's like over and over again. So there's a lesson there, guys. If you want to be someone's short stories, get good at turning them around quick.
Yeah. But for me, the interesting thing was when I kind of thought, okay, well, I don't know. I'll see what the prompt says on the website. Because you guys have all of the submission, all of the upcoming anthologies posted on your website.
Actually, we have the next 6 months. We're keeping it down
just
to
6 months.
6 months at a time.
Okay,
Because
yeah.
and that's
Which, man, if you're an up and coming author, which so many of you in the Writer Dojo are, and so many of you have published your stories with Raconteur Press, and man, some of your first sales have come through these guys, and it's
Well, I believe
Larry and I, we can't even begin to tell. Well, first, our listeners, how proud we are of you guys for that, but also for you guys, Ian, for you and your crew, like how much it means to us that you you took chances on our guys. You know what I mean?
I believe your last one, every single person in the anthology was a member of the Writer Dojo Facebook.
actually it's been a couple. If not every one of them, the vast majority have been Writer Dojo.
Yeah.
Well, there you go.
A couple of them.
There you go, guys. That's a good place to submit to right
No
there.
joke. But I went on the website and I saw the picture, and I thought, oh yeah, like I got this. Like, how can I not write a story about this?
Right.
And I've been dying to write this cyberpunk kind of character, this synthetic human, for freaking years. I'm like, man, this is my opportunity to write this character, and so I did, and I had a blast. But I had no idea that's why the cover changed. Now, not to take anything away from the current cover,
Oh, no,
because
the
the
current
current
cover's
cover is
fantastic.
rad. It is awesome. I love it. But that's crazy. I had no idea.
Amazon's kind of prudish. Her panties are showing. You cannot too much cleavage, too much leg. Amazon will not let you run that cover.
I mean, but you just described all of noir. Man.
Shirtless dudes are good to go, though.
Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah, that's a whole genre.
Yeah.
So I actually emailed Greg Hildebrandt and said, how much would it cost me? I can't afford this. How much would it cost me for you to do a cover in this style? And he never got back to me. And Cedar said, I got this. And it's like,
She crushed it.
no kidding.
She crushed
And
it.
you look at Cedar, and she's this little motherly thing. It's like, there's no way. And I was thinking, oh, okay. Well, we'll see what Cedar. And then she showed me the first one. It's like, oh my God, yes. That one, yes.
All right. Well, we got to take a quick break really quick. When we come back, we'll continue the conversation. We'll talk about, what some of the challenges were, and I guess, you know, what some of the benefits were, and the surprises, I guess, is along the travel as we can.
Well, and also, so I would like to get into some of the nuts and bolts business stuff.
Absolutely.
That's like the challenges that you face to kind of like go down this road. If anybody else is thinking about trying this.
All right. So give us a second. Listen to our lovely commercials by the people that I don't know who they are yet. And we'll have a good time. We'll be right back.
Jebediah Huckleberry Smith spent his entire life searching for the raider who mutilated him as a child. Finally, giving up on a trail long grown cold, he leaves his outlaw past behind and starts over in a remote town in Wyoming. One dark night, his ranch is attacked by a mysterious and ferocious beast from a world lost to time. Only Jebediah's savagery and skills save him. Now, teaming up with a beautiful but naive paleontologist, they stand in his adopted town and its destruction by an army of barbaric prehistoric apes and dinosaurs. But Jed's past has come back to haunt him. The man he searched for is discovered in a position of power, and Jed must choose revenge for his past or the salvation of strangers. Either way, bullets will fly and blood will be spilled. West of Prehistoric by Eric Testerman is available on Amazon. Pick up your copy today.
All right, everybody, welcome back. Okay, second half of the episode. Okay, first half, we got all of our laughs out of the way. I promise there will be no more humor in the back half of this episode. It will all be serious. Serious business. Okay, that's probably not going to happen. So, all right, well, Larry ended the top half of the episode with some intriguing thoughts, and that has to do with nuts and bolts. Mm-hmm. All right. What are some of the crazy, bizarre, weird challenges that you've had to deal with in starting a press? Stuff that, man, you didn't even know you didn't know when you started.
The biggest one was self-imposed.
Okay.
I'd heard horror stories of traditional press, and I wanted to make sure that if I was going to run a press, I was not going to run one like traditional press. I was going to be open with sales, and as open as it could be with how much money was coming in. And we were batting things around, and we discovered PubShare. And PubShare, they handle the accounting. Chuck at PubShare has been a lifesaver multiple times, but PubShare is what has enabled us. If you're one of our authors, you can see how many books we sold. You can see what your percentage is, and you can see what your estimated next royalty check is going to be, and you can balance all that. And we are as open as right now I can figure out how to be.
Yeah, because we've seen cases where publishers will straight up lie. They've been caught lying about how many books they sell in order to not pay royalties.
Now, one caveat: we are using Amazon's numbers, or PubShare is using Amazon's numbers. So if Amazon's cooking the books, but everything from Amazon down is clear and open. Mm-hmm. Our finances are open. If you are one of our authors, you know how many books we sold. You know what your cut is. And you can see how much money you've made, et cetera, et cetera. That was a big one. And PubShare, I would not be able to handle. My squirrels could not handle accounting. I'm not Larry Correia. Accounting is not something I can do.
It's fine. We're all crazy down here.
I don't know if I could do it anymore.
I add 2 + 2 more than 3 times, and I'll get 4 different results.
Well, I mean, that's the old accounting joke. 1 + 1 is whatever you want it to be.
Yeah, it's like, who's paying me?
Yeah. Okay, so right out the gate, and I hope that, for our listeners out there who are considering going down this route, starting a new publisher, and man, I hope that some of our listeners go that route.
Okay, yes.
We need more. We need more venues. We need more places for people to publish their.
We need more options.
Definitely need more options. Okay, so the financial aspect, tracking of that data.
To allow the individual author to know how many books were sold, what we're selling them for, what your percentage is, and if you've got enough fingers and you can take off your shoes, you can figure out what your cut is.
Sweet. Okay, so you got that part squared away. Then what happens?
Then you start learning about the esoteric ins and outs of publishing with Amazon.
Okay.
As a for instance, we were discussing the cover for Pinup Noir.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
The original. I wanted to use the original. The original inspiration was Saturday Night Special by Greg Hildebrandt. It's in his American Pinup series.
Man, it's so good.
It's a glorious shot, but I discovered very quickly that you can see her underwear.
Yeah.
And Amazon said, "Nein, there will be no underwear on this cover." And it's like, but I really wanted. So okay. So we started batting some stuff around, and there's a certain amount of, if she's wearing a dress, like Courtney said earlier, there's a certain amount of dress that's got to be showing.
Okay.
You can't have more than X amount of cleavage, and they'll never tell you what X amount is. It's just that isn't right.
Oh, there's a joke in there somewhere.
Amazon is several running jokes, but the cover was just startling about how Puritan and yet how idiot Amazon can be about covers.
Well, I mean, we've got 900 million variants of Fabio.
Yes.
Shirtless, right?
Yes. Amazon covers is much like Facebook on community standards. They
Yes.
have them. They don't tell you what they are until you violate one, and they won't tell you what you violated.
And they'll probably change them tomorrow anyway.
No kidding.
My goodness. Okay. So that part happens too.
And then you've got to be careful about. I never thought I would have to be careful about how we titled a book.
Oh, okay. What do you mean?
Okay. One of the things that we've done this year that we probably won't be doing again is at each convention we go to, we're doing these 50-word flash fiction. Mm-hmm. And we name them Postcards from something. Postcards from Mars. Postcards from LibertyCon. Well, the first one we did was Postcards from Mars. Not a problem. Postcards, that's important, from Mars. Not a problem. We get everything, it runs through. I think the second one went okay. Third one, postcards, nope, not gonna, you can't publish this. Well, why not? Because you're selling postcards, not a book. No. You have the draft. I know you have the draft. You can tell that this is not postcards. It has postcards in the title. It didn't matter 2 books ago. It matters now.
It's just amazing that that's even a thing. It's so dumb.
Most of the internet knows how bad I hate monkeys. And I do. I hate monkeys with a passion. They are the devil's oven mitts. And I'm pretty sure that I have been cursed with a set of monkeys in a Mumbai boiler room with a flowchart. And anytime Raconteur Press puts anything in Amazon, they go, I send it to these 3 monkeys in this boiler room. Because they hate me.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh, every production person out there in the world is like, yep. Man, okay, so I gotta say that's actually educational. I have another question coming down this route, and it's kind of as a result of some of the questions we were getting from people on panels earlier. Mm-hmm. When you were putting this stuff out there and you're producing it, how do you decide on pricing? Like what was your what's the decision making process there?
Part of standing out front looking pretty does not involve math.
Oh, nice.
So I have minions to do that for me. And I'd like to introduce minion number 1.
Hi, I'm Courtney. I write and edit as C.B. Walter. And I am minion number 1. It's my job to make the math work and to say no. And I say no a lot. But so the question specifically about pricing, one of the things I do is I look at where the market is. So a lot of our stuff is, a lot of people will think they don't have a comp, but there is always something that's like you, or that you want to be like and put it with. So I will go and see what the market will bear. And I tend to price our stuff right in the middle of the sweet spot. And there are reports that you can get that I buy them every month. And they will tell you what genre is priced at what and where you get the most sales for.
Okay.
And so that's where our numbers come from. I put everything in the sweet spot so I can make sure we get the most sales per book.
So you can see, like, so in this genre, things at $1.99 sell at this rate, things that are at $2.99 sell at this rate, kind of so on and so forth. Okay.
Yeah, and there's some where say if you have this many pages and sell at this price, you're likely to sell at about this rate.
Oh,
And-
so it's that granular then.
Oh, it's fantastic. I love K-Lytics. I recommend everybody who wants to get into this to go and read them and learn how they work.
Okay.
And they will say, your genre sells best at $4.99 if you have 250 pages, and if you have this number of pages, you should probably be here because you'll actually make more money for fewer sales.
Gotcha.
How much does because we're going into page counts and stuff here, but how much difference does it make, like, name recognition of the authors you have, like, on the masthead for that? So can you get like if you have more recognizable authors on your anthology, do you reach a little higher on that, or do you still stick with what the analytics are going with?
It doesn't make a difference.
Really?
Yeah, it really won't, because you look at who's selling at where, and if you have the really big authors with the masthead, they're all the ones that are doing traditional publishing, so they're going to have the big push from the bigger houses, and so they can price higher because that's what they've trained their readers to pay.
Gotcha.
We are an independent small press, and our readers have been trained at a lower price, but part of it is we don't have all the overhead that the big traditional publishers do.
Oh, so so that offsets that, and so your profit margins go higher then.
Our
Gotcha.
profit margins go much better,
Yeah,
and our authors get paid, I think, better than some of the anthologies I've seen. So.
That's actually really interesting
Oh,
because
yeah. As the two accountants were like, oh yeah.
No,
Okay, we
I
gotcha.
find that stuff fascinating because my only experience in putting together anthologies have been traditional published ones, and so it's kind of a different process, and a lot of that for us is more who can we get on that masthead, because the pricing for us is kind of predetermined by the market that we're in, because there's just norms, and so for us the desire is like, can I get Laurel K. Hamilton into this anthology, or can I get David Weber into this anthology? And then I do that, and it's all of a sudden I was like, ooh, very cool. The fact that you guys do the profit share is really interesting to me, because I've been in a lot of anthologies, like a lot of anthologies, and I've talked about this on the show before. I can count on my fingers how many of those anthologies I've actually gotten paid for after the initial, first one. So in this case, there's not an initial first, upfront per word fee. It's just what did we sell, which is interesting too, because that then behooves every author in it to actually get off their butt and go promote.
Everybody has a stake in it, and that's part of why we want to do this, is so everybody has a stake in it. It's not just I give you my stories and I'm checking out. We want people to own the anthologies, and our first anthologies still sell every month. So if you're in our first anthology, you're still getting money every month.
And when did that first anthology come out?
April of 2022. So
Okay,
just over
so
a year
we're
ago.
over a year, and yet
You're
it's
still getting paid.
selling.
Yep.
See, that's good. That's really good for those of you who are out there listening. That's really, really important to have that long tail on your sales.
And one of the things we call our baby authors chicklets, and we tell them we love you, now get out. What our standard contract is, you give us a short story for anthology, we have it for a year. After a year, rights revert to the author. We will continue to pay you as long as we can scrape together $10 for a check. If the profits are less than $10, publisher won't pay.
Right.
Until it gets, then you'll get a check. And we tell them, okay, after a year, you get your story back, and then give us more. And after the year, and once you get 10 stories, publish your own anthology, get paid for the whole thing, and we still pay you, and get out of the nest.
Yeah, because I've done collections, and honestly, it's one of the best things ever. And people don't realize it's just a whole extra title under your name out there in your backlist.
You're double dipping.
Yep, and if you're double dipping, theoretically, you got paid the first time. Now, I will say the downside of the profit sharing ones is if you get kind of like a dud anthology and you did that, because like I've known people who've done that, and they and then their total of the profit share was like $26 for for their 10,000 word story, that they did. And that happens sometimes. It's just a roll of the dice.
And with Raconteur Press, what we're doing, we're putting out so many, and the authors in the first one, which was Ghosts of Malta, are selling Pinup Noir. Pinup Noir is selling. If we have a dud, the 12 others that we put out that year will cover that dud.
See, that's smart, and it's funny because a lot of the places that do this, they don't. One of the things we've harped on this show is the fact that if you keep creating new, it boosts your old stuff.
Right.
And I've seen one of the flaws I've seen with some of the small presses is they'll produce a book, and they'll have like the book of the month, just boom, 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 boom. They're producing. But then their backlist stuff they don't sell anymore.
It just vanishes.
It vanishes. It's all about whatever the new thing is. And I'm like, guys, that is just like you got this perfectly good product out there. And theoretically, as if you're growing your audience, that's people who are going to go buy that perfectly good product the first time. So the fact that you guys are still selling the first one that's good. That is definitely a misstep that I see a lot of people make.
Everyone here knows Ben Yellow.
Oh yeah, Ben Yellow.
Amazing. Ben Yellow is fantastic, and he will go into these glorious tales of the old pulp fiction magazines.
Did you know his mom won a Nobel Prize?
Yes.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. And these old pulp fiction magazines that launched so many of the golden age, the science fiction authors. And he came up to us at a con, I forget which one, and said that what we're doing is recreating the old pulp. And it's like, holy crap, we are.
Yeah, you're trying to do, amazing stories and Black Mask and that kind of general idea. Mm-hmm. Honestly, the promotion bit where everybody has incentivized for promotion is huge. I've seen many times with traditional anthologies, they'll get a big name author, get him an anthology, he'll write the story, it's fire and forget. And then he doesn't even tell his fans about it because it's just like, whatever, I did my thing, I did my job, I'm done. And I've seen authors do that with books too. And it's like, guys, you right there are missing the biggest and greatest opportunity ever. It's all about connecting to your fans. And the fact that, Raconteur, you guys are building that fan base. Mm-hmm. You're building that cadre. The main reason I'm successful, I think I'm okay, but is I've got, whatever. But I got a cadre of people who are reliable, excited for my stuff to come out. And if you get that boost right out the beginning to move you up into the views and get eyes on, and it's all about the name. So like Bane, people know the name. So I think you guys are on the right path, and I'm really excited to see where it goes.
Oh,
I think one of the things that we've done really well with this is we've titled our anthologies are part of a series, and so if someone catches up like Pinup Noir, right, that people really like that one. Well, what else did they put out? You go to Amazon, you hit Raconteur Press, and it's book 12 of a 12-book series, and so they can go and and buy the entire backlist at once. Mm-hmm. And they're getting a whole bunch of different stuff. It's like being able to go to Amazing Stories and buying the last year's worth of magazines.
Right.
And that's a lot of what we're trying to do is get them to do that. So it's all connected.
Well, the key to is the quality, because if you keep the quality up, mm-hmm. and people read that and they're like, okay, I know that with this name, I equate it with this level of quality. And one of the traps I've seen some of the small presses fall into, and it's sick. I love some of these guys, but they'll churn and burn, and they'll turn out stuff that's subpar, and then people start to conflate that with the name.
Yeah, it's quality over quantity.
One of the great things that we're finding is the word of mouth is spreading so much that we haven't had an anthology yet that we put out that didn't go into number 2, number 3, and sometimes number 4. We get that many good stories, and we've turned down bad stories. Yeah. We've had I've turned out a lot more than the ladies have. But
do you find, like, a personal level? Do you find that really hard?
Yes.
Speaking as an editor, I mean, I've done. It breaks my heart.
I hate everyone.
And Jonna helped me nail it down. It's we are known for a certain thing.
Yeah.
And we get this To this day, one of the first ones that I went, oh hell no, was a Wokis Screed.
Yeah.
And it's like, I think they were daring me to publish it. And it's like, I'm sorry, this is not what Raconteur Press is looking for, but we'll help you self-publish if you want. You can publish on your own. And nope, they never contacted me back.
No. That was, yeah. I was thinking more, because that's like, hey, stick your face in this bear trap, you know? No, thank you. But I was thinking like the genuinely, like, they're trying really hard.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they're well intentioned. I just as an editor, I'm not a mean person.
If you want to watch three ladies in an agony of decision, we will close the postcard submissions at the Monday that the con ends.
And then you got to go over the
and
pile.
then they have to go over a pile, and we are getting a amazing ton of really good that we've got to cut down.
Yeah.
Yep.
And Jonna will be almost in tears over, this is so good, and they'll start going, okay, how many have 49 words out?
Yep.
How many have 51 words out? They'll break it down to 50.
You
And
have
then
to.
does this tell a story in 50 words, in 50 words? No, it's out. Yes, it does, but it's not as good as this one.
Yep. It's weighing and it's looking flaws. I've done contest judging, for like the Band Fantasy Award. It's the same kind of thing, and I got dozens of great stories ranging between like a C, B, or an A, and we're looking for the A+. And some of these are like, dude, I know this guy put his heart and soul into the story, and this is a good story, but it's not the right one, and it's just, I have to break that news to that guy. That's why I like teaming up with somebody else. Like I team up with Casey Ezel.
You make me do that.
Yeah. So Casey,
So mean. You said you weren't a mean person. But come on, man.
well, no, I mean Casey's hardcore, man. She's flying helicopters into combat. She's like, I got this. Boom, you're out.
Casey will cut you. But one thing I actually like about it is you get the guys who they've put their heart and soul in this, and it's not quite there. And it gives me the opportunity to say, you know what, this is a fantastic effort. You need to refine it a little bit. Keep working on your craft and send me the next one. And I really do mean keep working on your craft and send me the next one. I want you to be the best author you can possibly be. And so I don't like rejecting people out of hand. So sometimes it's like, this just does not fit with what I've got. I'm really sorry. Try good luck somewhere else. But sometimes like, I want you to be better. And so it's not me being mean. It's me helping. It's like telling my kids, oh, you didn't wash the dishes properly. Let me show you how to do it again. And then we're going to do it again. I'm building baby authors to be adult
The thing
authors.
with Raconteur is we are publishing so many anthologies
Right.
that they know that, hey, Courtney's not giving you the traditional publishing two-step. If she says that we'll try again, we've got 8 more anthologies coming out. There's a good in one of these 8. There's a good chance you'll get in if you work at it.
And every time you do this, you get a little bit better. You learn a new thing. And each book I write, I get a little better. Each story I write, I get a little better. It's the same thing for all of us. And so maybe this isn't your shot on this one, but 2 anthologies from now, go for it again.
We've got people that have entered every postcards we've done and been rejected, and are trying again.
Well, I mean,
Respect.
gosh, I've written quite a few. I mean, not Larry levels of short stories now, but I've written quite a few
You've written
short
quite a few,
stories.
yeah.
Published quite a few short stories, and every time I submit to an anthology, I'm giving it my best. Either out of fear because I'm on the table of contents with like freaking Jim Butcher or something, and I'm like, okay, just don't be the worst author in this anthology. We can do it, or an anthology where I see maybe I don't know who's in it. I'm like, okay, what if the story I write is my best story?
Yep.
And the people who review it after the fact say that was the best story in the anthology.
Or like when Hinckley beat me David Weber and Laurel K. Hamilton to have the highest reviewed
Yeah.
story. My daughter, who at the time was like 18, 19, 19,
yeah,
20, I can't remember, whatever. And she beat me. And she beat David Weber, and she
There
beat
you
Laurel
go.
K. Hamilton.
There you go.
Holy crap. You know, so
Yeah, well, and like, for my story for Pinup Noir, I look at that and I'm like, man, this is one of the coolest stories I've ever written.
that's awesome.
That I am so proud of Pinup Noir. I really am.
It's so good.
Everything from the cover to the stories, and is this public knowledge yet? We have enough stories that we were probably running a Pinup Noir 3.
Right.
I mean, we get so many submissions. I keep telling them, all right, this is whatever we're doing. Vagabonds in Space. This will be the one Vagabonds in Space anthology.
15 minutes later.
And then I walk in
Memories.
the shop 2 weeks later, and they're giggling at me. It's like, what? Well, we're going for Vagabonds 2.
You guys actually kind of stumbled into something that me and producer Jack talked about. If you remember this, about 10 years ago, 10 years ago, we talked about this, and it was the dearth of markets to submit short stories to, and because there's some, and a lot, but there's some of them are very, very specific, and they're looking for very, very specific things. And then anthologies from traditional publishers, those are great, but there's only so many a year. Bayan does more than most publishers, and we do what, maybe 10 a year, right? So the market was there. So we actually talked about this 10 years ago. We actually had an idea that it kind of fell by the wayside because we have a lot of side hustle ideas we think about. But we thought about creating a clearinghouse for people to submit short fiction to.
I remember this one.
Yeah, I talked about it because Steve's an accountant, so I talked about this to Steve about the business side. But honestly, then time has moved on, technology's moved on, Amazon has changed, and I think honestly, what you guys are doing here with like kind of the rapid fire, changing themes, like rotating themes for short fiction market, constant submissions. The fact you're getting so many quality submissions shows that it is viable, that there is a market out there of people who want to write short fiction and people who want to read it. And so I think you guys have wandered into territory that's got a ton of really great potential.
I'm not so sure wandered as stumbled.
Push, tripped, shoved.
Walked in, whacked your head on it.
Someone threw a black bag over your head and dragged you in by your feet.
Fell down the stairs.
It's like you walked into a ceiling fan.
I want to read short stories. Oh, that sounds like fun. How do we do that? I don't know. Let's go find some.
Let's go form a business and get 4,000 of them a year. No, but the market's out there. People really, like, so Ben Yellen talked about the history of the pulps. That's the thing. People have always really enjoyed that short fiction.
Oh gosh, we were talking about that with Howard Andrew Jones.
Yeah.
Just a little bit
Because
ago.
Howard's doing a magazine for sword and sorcery, and I think that audience is out there.
Mm-hmm.
People are hungry for that bite-sized fiction. Also, we're heading into a generation of people who their ability to read novels has been ruined by Twitter.
Yeah.
No kidding.
So if you can start bringing it back with smaller, 5,000, 7,000, 10,000 words, and you get them into that, great.
Yeah.
I think that's fantastic.
One of the core principles that we're doing here at Raconteur, I'm talking about the chicklets, about kicking them out of the nest, is we're getting, when you submit to us, you need to follow a guideline. Courtney will do a guideline. It's 5,000 to 8,000 words, 12-point font.
I'll have everyone know, it is brought to my attention today at my reading that I was literally the only person in Pinup Noir that was under the word count threshold by 3 words. Because, like Larry, I have learned that when there's a submission like a top shelf kind of line, you go right up to it to maximum. Look, we're accountants, we min-max.
Lost
Get right up there. Lost Planet Homicide.
They paid me a fantastic per word rate up to 20,000 words. It was 19,999 words.
Yes. And after I read it, I gave it back to you. It was 20,000. I just broke up a contraction. It was really easy. But yeah, follow the submission guidelines. This is a skill.
We're teaching them every time they turn in stuff for us, and we have a lot of authors turning in multiple. They want to hit multiple anthologies. Every time they do, they are following the rules, the guidelines, which is what the big traditional guys want. So we're sort of like the training wheels. And then by the time you get done with this, the training wheels come off and you can actually go and, to a slush pile and maybe have a better shot.
Farm League. I didn't even think of it that way.
That would be AAA, Larry. Sports ball fans out there.
I don't know sports ball. I know USPSA, IDPA, and 3-gun. Beyond that, I'm confused.
Well, and we were kind of gabbing here a little bit here and there, and it's one of the things that Dave Butler says. It's again, baseball. I love baseball. Everything goes back to baseball for me, and that's the idea of getting on base percentage, right? The more often you get on base, the more often you are to score. Okay, that's statistical fact in baseball. They made a whole thing about this. Statistics. People have their jobs based on this. Teams have won World Series based on this concept. And so the more often you get on base, the more credits you have to your name, the more likely you are to gain potential other opportunities to contribute. Like you said, learning how to freaking follow the directions.
Building good habits is to follow in directions.
That's right.
Because we see a lot of stuff we put out fairly specific. We're a little more flexible than most because we're a small independent publisher.
You can be.
And we'll get people, say, no, do not send anything Comic Sans. The third submission I get that crosses my threshold in the next week will be in Comic Sans. Can't follow directions. Nice try. And we're trying to build good habits. If you're constantly turning in Evan Deshays, one of our authors, he's gonna be the first one of our chicklets to have his own 10-story anthology just on stuff he's given us.
Good.
Manny Ratliff is heading that way too. They are learning good every time they turn in and get accepted. They're learning good habits. These habits will help them in their writing career. That makes me happy.
Well, actually, in fact, after I think it was the first Space Cowboy anthology, where a bunch of the WriterDojo folks, actually everyone in the WriterDojo, that whole list was from our, our fan base here, and our listeners. And then a couple of them had already been notified that they were in the follow-up. And so then, of course, the very next one of the questions we get immediately on the show was, hey, suddenly I'm getting stories published, and that's rad. But, man, what do I need to start thinking about putting together my own collection? And we're like, well, the first rule of this is to give yourself a high five, because that's awesome. Good freaking job. Because out there are so many people that they get scared to even write, and then they're even more scared to submit. And that's part of what Larry and I have been doing, is trying to demystify all this, and that's part of why we wanted to have you guys on the show, is to help people understand, like, man, this is not rocket surgery. If you can follow directions and you can hone your craft, like like what Courtney was saying, like, hey, look, maybe this story is good, but maybe it's not all the way there yet, but man, you keep doing, if you keep trucking, you can get there. And so, boy, our 30-minute episode has gone on for just 1 or 2 minutes over, as happens. But look, part of that's because you can tell we enjoy talking with you. We're all in good company.
This has been fun.
We're all in good company. We're all friends here, and on a professional level, we all respect each other, and I think we all trust each other, and I think that's even higher. But at some point, we have to stop the episode. Mainly, I think because my wife's very tired.
We're in Steve's hotel room.
Yes.
His poor wife and kid are trapped here.
The microphone I was speaking of was actually propped on a book on top of a bed.
But which book?
Robert E. Howard, The Horror Stories of.
And so, you know what?
That's good stuff.
A very worthy book to be right there. All right, but look, in all seriousness, thank you, Lawdog. Courtney, thanks for being tagged in like WWE. Whoosh!
I am Lawdog stunt double.
Same
do it all
thing.
the
You're the
time.
muscle for it.
I have introduced her at panels as my stunt double, and then left, and then out the side door.
But look, we really appreciate you all making the time for us. We know schedules are wonky, and so thank you guys so much for coming on up.
You're welcome.
Spending some time gabbing with us, joking with us, having fun. But, you know, spouting out such really interesting, good, salient details for our listeners out there. Some of which, man, we didn't even know. Like, we're like, oh, kind of, you know, Larry and I are kind of looking at each other going, oh, that's kind of some gee whiz stuff. That's neat. So, look, we appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for coming up.
Oh,
with
thank you
us.
for having us.
Thanks for having us.
All right. Well, unfortunately, that's all the time we have. We'll get you guys back on at some other point. But look, this is the Writer Dojo, and we'll see you on the next one.
WriterDojo is Steve Diamond and Larry Correia. Produced by Jack Wilder and Bear and Hare Studios. Theme song, Word Mercenaries by Craig Nybo. New episodes come out every Wednesday wherever you stream your content. If you enjoyed this podcast, you can help support us by going to anchor.fm/WriterDojo, by leaving a 5-star rating and review, and by helping to spread the word. To advertise on the Writer Dojo, email ads@writerdojo.com. All questions and comments can be emailed to questions@writerdojo.com.
Shut it, we're not doing that. It's time to go drink.